Jimmy Logan is a construction worker who has gone through a divorce. He has a young daughter named Sadie, but custody belongs to her mother. Even so, Jimmy stays close to Sadie, visiting her often and spending whatever time he can with his only child. Whenever they are together, they share a simple ritual by singing Jimmy's favorite song. At the moment, Jimmy is working on the construction of a new racing circuit. While he is busy digging an underground tunnel, his foreman suddenly calls him over. The meeting ends badly. Jimmy is fired on the spot. He tries to argue, but the foreman explains that the decision is tied to problems with Jimmy's insurance claim. The explanation only fuels Jimmy's anger, but there is nothing he can do except accept it. After leaving the site, Jimmy heads to his sister Mellie's salon. There, Mellie vents her frustration. Jimmy missed his niece's dance recital, and she could not reach him at all. The reason soon becomes clear. Jimmy's phone has been shut off because he can no longer afford to pay the bill. From the salon, Jimmy goes straight to his ex-wife's house to see Sadie. He plans to take her out for ice cream, but the timing is bad. Sadie is about to leave with her stepfather. After she goes, Jimmy's ex-wife drops another blow. She plans to move away with her new family, which means Sadie will be leaving too. The news hits Jimmy hard. Determined not to lose his daughter, he decides he needs a lawyer to fight for custody. The problem is simple and brutal. He has just lost his job, and he has no money. That night, Jimmy visits his brother Clyde, who works as a bartender. At the bar, Jimmy also runs into Earl, a regular customer. As Jimmy talks with Clyde, the conversation turns to the long string of bad luck that seems to follow the Logan family. Clyde, always the pessimist, insists that nothing ever goes right for them. The discussion turns heated, and Jimmy steps away to cool off in the restroom. While Jimmy is gone, a loud group from a NASCAR company arrives at the bar. Their boss, Max, talks nonstop and eventually crosses the line by mocking Clyde's prosthetic arm. Clyde says nothing and keeps doing his job, calmly preparing Max's drink. But when Jimmy returns and realizes what is happening, he snaps. Clyde lost his arm while serving as a soldier in Iraq, and Jimmy cannot tolerate the insult. Without hesitation, he punches Max.
Stay down!
As Jimmy and Max fight inside the bar, Clyde slips outside and sets Max's car on fire. The alarm immediately blares, forcing Max to break off the fight and sprint toward the parking lot in fury. Jimmy follows close behind and shouts a single word at Clyde. Cauliflower. It is their code.
Cauliflower.
What Jimmy is really signaling is a plan to commit a crime. Jimmy reveals his idea to rob the NASCAR company's cash vault hidden beneath the Charlotte racetrack. He explains that during race season, massive amounts of cash flow through underground pipes into a central vault. Jimmy knows this because he helped build the tunnels himself while working construction there. This is where the plan begins. This is Logan Lucky. To break into the main vault, they still need one more person, Joe Bang, a specialist in cracking safes. The next day, Jimmy and Clyde visit Joe in prison. Joe still has 5 months left on his sentence, so when they pitch the plan, he immediately turns it down. Clyde refuses to give up. He reminds Joe about the cash Joe once buried in his yard, money that was quietly taken by his brother-in-law. That detail gets Joe's attention, especially after Jimmy adds that the vault they are targeting holds far more than Joe's hidden savings, around $97,000. Joe starts to listen, but he makes one thing clear. If he is in, he wants to do the job his way, and he wants his two brothers involved. After leaving the prison, the Logan brothers track down Joe's brothers and ask for their help. At first, they refuse. They insist they are done with crime unless there is a moral reason to get involved. Clyde then tells them about what happened to Mellie, who was once harassed by her assistant manager at work. That story changes everything, and in the end, Joe's brothers agree to join the plan. The next day, Clyde carries out his part. He deliberately crashes a car into a convenience store, pleads guilty, and is sentenced to 90 days in jail. The real reason is never mentioned. Clyde wants to be inside prison so he can secretly help Joe when the time comes. A few days later, Jimmy spends time with Sadie as usual. During the day, he unexpectedly runs into Sylvia, a traveling doctor focused on humanitarian work. She turns out to be a former classmate from his high school years. Sylvia explains that her medical missions often struggle due to a lack of funds for supplies. Hearing this moves Jimmy, and he quietly decides that if he succeeds, she will be one of the people he helps. That night, Mellie begins preparing dozens of bright pink insects. This is part of her plan to locate the bank that serves as the main vault connected to the underground pipes. The next day, Joe's brothers handle the shopping for the operation. They gather supplies and collect tree sap from the forest, which Joe plans to use as part of his improvised explosives. Meanwhile, Jimmy sneaks back into his old workplace to steal the construction blueprints. While he is there, he runs into the foreman who fired him. The foreman explains that the project is nearly finished, and several access points have already been sealed. Still, some workers remain on site to make sure the renovations do not interfere with upcoming NASCAR races. The update does not derail the plan. Jimmy simply moves the operation up by 1 week. He informs Clyde in prison so his brother can prepare the escape plan with Joe. Jimmy also updates Melly, knowing she will need to adjust her part of the operation. Melly reacts fast. She orders a birthday cake as the next step in the plan. The cake is delivered the following day, addressed to a woman named Delilah, but sent anonymously. Delilah is one of the employees responsible for overseeing the NASCAR company's main vault. After the delivery, Melly sabotages Delilah's car to create a distraction. Delilah is forced to deal with the car problem before returning to work. By the time she gets back, the main vault has already been sealed, and the birthday cake is locked inside with it. The next day, Delilah returns to work like nothing is wrong. When the vault is opened, she is stunned to find that the birthday cake from the day before is crawling with insects. The bank has no choice but to call an exterminator, and the job is assigned to the Bang brothers. Once inside the main vault, they quickly confirm what Melly hoped for. The pink insects have made it all the way there, proving that the underground pipes from the Charlotte racetrack connect directly to the bank. They immediately pass the confirmation on to Jimmy. Back in prison, Joe begins planning his escape. He enlists the help of another inmate named Naaman, asking him to stir up trouble with the other prisoners. The goal is simple: create enough chaos to pull the guards' attention away so Joe can slip out unnoticed. The following morning, Joe and Clyde put their parts of the plan into motion. Joe follows the normal routine at first, leaving his cell and heading to breakfast like everyone else. While the warden is making his rounds, Joe suddenly becomes violently sick and throws up his meal. The outburst enrages the warden, who orders Joe to be taken to the prison hospital immediately.
You okay, Joe, mate?
Shit! Get some towel.
At the infirmary, Joe is told to rest. When he asks to use the restroom, the nurse initially refuses and offers a bedpan instead. Outside the room, Clyde is already in position, pretending to mop the floor. He steps in and volunteers to escort Joe. The nurse eventually agrees, and once inside the restroom, Joe opens a hidden access leading to the back of the prison. From there, the two slip out and head for the garage. At the garage, Joe and Clyde crawl underneath a transport vehicle that regularly drives to a gas station. When the truck stops, they climb out, where Melly is already waiting. She picks them up, and together they head straight for the Charlotte racetrack. Meanwhile, back at the prison, Naaman begins his distraction. He stages a fight with another inmate, triggering chaos in the cafeteria. The disorder forces the warden to lock down the facility, trapping all the prisoners inside. He chooses not to report the incident, worried that it would make him look incompetent. Elsewhere, the Bang brothers carry out another critical task. They take down a cell tower, ensuring that credit card payments will fail during race day. With thousands of fans flooding the track and cash transactions piling up, the registers fill quickly. This pressure forces the NASCAR operation to send money through the underground pipes faster than usual. With the others in position, Jimmy finally makes his move. He enters the racetrack disguised as an ordinary spectator, passing through the main gates and security without issue. Instead of heading to the stands, he slips away and makes his way underground, closing in on the pipe he knows so well. Not long after, Joe and Clyde arrive at the track as well. They blend in by posing as construction workers still handling renovations. Without drawing attention, Joe casually buys a pack of jelly beans, which secretly serve as a key component in his homemade explosive. In the race, NASCAR has a star driver named Dayton. He is an athlete who takes his physical condition seriously, believing that success on the track is not just about the car's engine. Because of that, Dayton carefully controls everything he eats and drinks, paying close attention to his nutrition. As race time approaches, Max, the head of NASCAR, approaches Dayton and pushes him to drink an energy beverage. Dayton initially resists, unwilling to consume anything random before a race. But Max keeps pressuring him, especially with reporters nearby and the drink being a major sponsor. In the end, Dayton gives in and drinks it just to put an end to the situation. The decision quickly backfires. Dayton struggles to stay focused during the race and eventually crashes on the track.
Getting boxed. You're gonna bang him.
Furious, he blames the energy drink and directs his anger straight at Max. Back underground, Joe and Clyde make their way toward the tunnel. To get there, they have to pass through a waste disposal route before reaching the lower levels. Once underground, they head straight for the pipe, where Jimmy's already waiting. With Jimmy in position, Joe prepares his explosive, which looks almost laughably simple. At first, Jimmy and Clyde doubt him, thinking he is not serious. Joe takes the time to explain how the chemicals work, and only then do they agree to go through with it. Moments later, Joe places the explosive inside the pipe. After the blast, money begins rushing through the system toward them. Jimmy and the others quickly gather the cash and stuff it into black trash bags, carrying it out of the tunnel without raising suspicion. The explosion sends smoke drifting up into one of the racetrack's restaurants. A worker notices it and alerts security. Shortly after, security officers head down to the tunnel to investigate. Unexpectedly, they come across the Bang brothers hauling piles of trash. When asked if they smell something burning, the brothers calmly claim that they have had no sense of smell since childhood. The explanation is strange, but the guards accept it and let them continue. The Bang brothers keep driving toward the exit, but at the final gate, it jams. As two security guards move closer, they spot smoke seeping through the door. When it opens, they find Earl casually smoking. His job is to distract them while Jimmy and Joe help the Bang brothers force the stubborn gate open. Not long after, Jimmy arrives and finally manages to get it unstuck. With the path clear, the Bang brothers roll out, hauling bags filled with stolen cash. With the mission complete, Joe and Clyde need to get back to prison immediately. As they leave the tunnel, they unexpectedly cross paths with Dayton and Max, who are still arguing. Max briefly recognizes Clyde, but Clyde wastes no time and disappears before anything can escalate. Back inside the prison, the inmates set the kitchen on fire, triggering the fire alarm. Firefighters rush to the scene, but the fire truck that arrives is actually the same vehicle Joe and Clyde used to slip back into the prison unnoticed. Thanks to the chaos, the warden unlocks access throughout the facility. When the nurse comes to check on Joe, he is already back in his cell, acting distressed and claiming he was trapped inside, pretending to know nothing about the disturbance. With the mission complete, Jimmy gets rid of all his disguises and heads straight to his daughter's performance. That afternoon, Sadie is scheduled to sing. She waits anxiously for her father and for Melly, but neither has arrived yet. Eventually, Melly shows up and quickly helps get Sadie ready. As Sadie is called to the stage, Jimmy arrives just in time, and seeing him makes her smile. Sadie performs her father's favorite song. The moment draws the entire audience in, and the room fills with emotion. Her performance earns her first place, leaving her overjoyed. After the show, Jimmy drives to a gas station. There, he leaves behind the truck filled with the stolen money from earlier that day. Once home, he burns all his planning notes, erasing any trace of the robbery. The next day, news of the heist breaks. Reports reveal that the stolen money was simply abandoned inside a truck at a gas station. The public is baffled, and many label the thief as careless or foolish for walking away from such a huge payout. The robbery soon attracts the attention of the FBI. Agents begin searching for witnesses and evidence. Max steps forward to testify, but his account raises doubts. He claims that Dayton also encountered one of the thieves, Clyde. When questioned, Dayton denies the story, partly because he is still angry at Max. Investigators also visit the prison to check on the Logan brothers. The warden denies anything unusual, explaining that Joe was in the prison hospital that day and that the kitchen fire was treated as a routine incident. From the outside, nothing appears suspicious. After several days of investigation, the detectives find no trace of Jimmy Logan. His phone has been disconnected for 3 months, and on the day of the robbery, he is confirmed to have been attending his daughter's performance. The following day, Clyde is released from prison. Melly picks him up, and when they get home, he is surprised with a suitcase filled with cash from Jimmy. Not long after, Joe is released as well. He hears that their stolen money was left behind at a gas station and seeks out Clyde, asking where Jimmy is. Clyde has no answer, and the realization leaves Joe frustrated, feeling as if he was used. The next day, Joe is relaxing at home when someone suddenly knocks on his door. When he opens it, no one is there. All he finds is a shovel resting on the porch. Trusting his instincts, Joe grabs it and starts digging in his yard. Before long, he uncovers a bundle of cash, his share of the money he stole alongside Jimmy. It becomes clear that Jimmy has quietly distributed the stolen money to everyone who helped make the mission possible. Nauman receives his cut after being released from prison. Jimmy also donates part of the money to Sylvia, supporting her humanitarian medical work. 6 months later, the detectives are still chasing the case until NASCAR steps in and asks them to drop it. The company is satisfied with the insurance payout they received. Strangely, they are never able to determine the exact amount of money that was taken. With no clear answers left, the investigation finally comes to an end. That morning, Jimmy visits his ex-wife's home and spends time with Sadie, just like he always hoped he could. The story closes on a happy note. Jimmy's plan succeeds, and he is able to be with the people who matter most to him. So the moral of the story is when life goes wrong, just pull a smart crime, skip the money, and never miss your kid's recital.